Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I have been on here. We have been making this transition into our camper, getting into our location, and basically just trying to find a rhythm and a routine for this new stage of our life. And so we've really just kind of pulled ourselves back a little bit from some of the other obligations and things that we were involved in, trying to really focus on figuring out this kind of new life that we have made for ourselves. So I want to get back on track with you guys and sharing some more things about homeschooling and just our adventures in general. And one thing that kind of occurred to me is how we have transitioned into this life of where we went from 2,500 square feet into more like 250 square feet. No, sorry, not 250, 450 square feet. 250 would be really tight with 6 people. 450 square feet. So a lot of people are still thinking that's really tight with 6 people. And it is. But I digress. So what I was thinking is more of less of sharing how we are homeschooling and how we are able to homeschool in a tight space. I know a lot of people are not going to, sell their home, move into a camper and homeschool their 4 kids in a camper. But maybe you don't have a designated homeschool room and, you're trying to homeschool and make things work without having a designated homeschool space, which is totally okay. And honestly, we don't have a designated homeschool space and it's working out just fine. Are things different? Of course it is. We used to have a designated homeschool room and there's nothing wrong with having one of those, by the way. I love the Pinterest worthy ones that have all the cool posters and all the wood manipulatives, and they look so Montessori school-esque and all the cool things that they have out available for the kids. My schoolroom never looked like that. It was very practical because I'm just a practical person and things have to be easy to find and easy to use and available, or I'll never find them or use them. But I wanted to get on here and kind of offer an encouragement. If you're one of those families that don't have a designated homeschool space, it's okay. You can still make this work. You can still find ways to have a really good homeschool atmosphere, even though you don't have a designated homeschool space. So I wanted to kind of share some of the things that we're doing in our camper, and I'm also going to kind of take you through and kind of show you what it looks like in our camper. So I'm going to kind of describe it and then I'll also walk you through and show you what I'm talking about. So let me look at my notes here. So one, as you know, our space is limited here. So one of the things that we really focused on is when we were looking around, you have lots of, if you look over here, I have some like cubbies, and there are lots of little cubbies and storage nooks and crannies in a camper, but not all of them are the right size of what you're looking for. They're not deep enough, they're not wide enough, they don't have enough shelves for what you're looking for. You'll actually see it when I show you a couple things. I'm using them for homeschool, but the space is underutilized because it doesn't really fit perfectly for what I need it for. So you find that. So I actually had to bring in something to hold our homeschool stuff for our 4 kids. And so something that I wanted was a storage ottoman, or an ottoman just in general, but I wanted it to be both, like cute and trendy. I mean, trendy for me, I'm not the most trendy person, but cute and functional at the same time. So I wanted something cute, but also have another purpose. So I wanted an ottoman, but it had to be one that had a lid so that I could store the majority of our homeschool things in it. And honestly, it really does. Aside from a few books that our kids are reading that I keep in a different area, so picture books and things that they can have to be able to read during their own quiet time, or just in the evening before bedtime to have some books to read. Those are kept in a separate space, but all of the majority of all of their school supplies and books and papers and different things that we're working with on a day-to-day basis are kept in our storage ottoman. So when school's in session, that storage ottoman is open and we're rifling through it, pulling things out, putting them away as we finish. Now, when school's over, that thing is closed and it's used as an ottoman. So if you were to walk in on a non-school hour, you would have no idea that I'm storing all of our homeschool materials in it. You may not even know that we're a homeschool family. So I love that about it, that when I need it to work for homeschooling, it's a homeschool space. But when we're done, I close that puppy up and you'd never know that that was housing our entire homeschool schoolroom, essentially. Now, another thing that I found to be super useful, again, we are working in a really tight space, was to have furniture that could be pulled out and used when I needed it to be, but could be folded up and put in a very small space when it was not needed or not in use. So we're big fans of IKEA. We were when we lived in our sticks and bricks home. We had IKEA desks, bookshelves, all the things from IKEA. Well, we utilize IKEA for this as well. So IKEA has a great desk, well, more like a table, that has the fold up leaves. So when it's in use, it's like 5 feet long, and I can fit all the kids around it if I need to. If I only need one of them up, then, you know, 1 or 2 kids can be working on it. It works for that as well. So I'll show you that table. It's super handy. It has some drawers in it as well, where we store majority of our like school supplies. We're talking like pencils, pens, markers, colored pencils, scissors, all tape, all those different things that the kids throughout the day are wanting to use or will need. So I put all of those things in the little drawers, and they can access them when they need them without having to come to me for it. I also was able to find some really light chairs that fold up pretty flat, and we're able to pull out the 4 chairs for the 4 kids, set them around the table if need be. And then, you know, when the school day is done, again, the table folds down, the chairs fold up, and we slide the chairs behind our couches. So you would not know that we're needing those during, you know, in the evening. If you walked in and we weren't doing school, you would have no idea. So I love things like that you can, you know, fold up and use, or fold out and use, and then fold up and put away when not in use. Those are super great for small spaces. The other thing is don't be afraid to use what you have available. A kitchen table works perfectly. Honestly, we had a designated schoolroom, and I want to say maybe 50% of the time the kids were actually in there at their desk because they wanted to be around everybody else. So, you know, we were working at the kitchen table. We were working out on the porch. You know, here we can go out on the picnic table. You know, I have 1 kid working on the picnic table, 1 kid working on the fold out desk, and then we have another table that we also purchased that's a little, you know, fold down table that we can move inside, outside, wherever we need it to be. So I can have 3 different kids working in 3 different areas, you know, just based on what's available. So kitchen tables work great. Picnic tables, being outside on a deck or something like that works great. And honestly, my kids love a little lap board and sitting on the couch or the floor. Eden and I almost always do her school on the floor. She's 5. She doesn't have, it takes us 15-20 minutes to go through her assignments, but she would prefer to sit on the floor. So we pull out the little lap desk and she works on the floor. So again, don't be afraid to just use what you have available. You don't have to have the big fancy tables. You don't have to, you know, make this grandiose schoolroom. You can use what you have available. Another thing that I have found to be really helpful is just having some little totes, boxes, you know, even little carts. But those carts from IKEA are super handy. They roll, they're on wheels, and they have like 3 little shelves on them. Those make great. They're small, they can fit into a little corner, and they can hold all your supplies, whether it's, you know, the books that you're using for each kid, or, you know, the crayons, the pencils, the rulers, things like that. It can be really helpful to hold all the things, and it moves from room to room with you. So if you want to put it in a closet, you can do that, pull it out when you need it. I didn't bring that with me, and instead I'm just using a tote to hold some of the books that the kids are likely to read. So I brought lots of different readers and lots of different levels, and some activity books for the kids. So just rainy days, quiet time activities, different things like that that I would have available. So those are great. You can pick them up and move them. You can kind of push them into a corner. If they're stackable, even better, because then you can put them, you know, one on top of the other. Another thing and another option, if space is limited for you, is to do things digitally if possible. So if there is a digital version of a textbook or a digital version of, you know, a book that you can read to them, you know, if you have a Kindle or you have the Kindle app on a phone or an iPad or something like that, you can always get the digital version. Even if you don't want to buy it, like, you know, talking about the Kindle, a lot of times you can just rent the books from your local library through like a Libby app or There are lots of different apps that you can use to be able to go through your local library and still get the digital book and be able to have access to that without having the physical hard copy. So we've been using that a lot. One of the things that I actually did, because I was so short on space, is I made PDFs of a few of the books that I owned so that I could have access to it on the iPad. So our math books are really, really thick, and at least for Eden and Ezra, they don't need access to the books, so they're not looking at their math problems and having to look at a textbook. The older two are. They look at a textbook, they look at the problem, copy it onto their paper, and then solve it. The younger two don't. I just need to have access to it. So I made PDF versions of their book solely for my purpose, not selling, not doing anything with it. I'll delete it when I'm done, kind of thing, but I was limited on space, and so I made a PDF of them. And so I am able to go through and look at their lesson on a PDF on their iPad, and I don't have to have a, literally like 3-inch thick textbook for their math program. So whether or not you're making your own digital copy of something, or you're getting it loaned from the library or purchasing it, that can really save space in a time when you need. That can really save space when space is really limited for you. All right, one of the last tips that I want to share with you is don't buy something unless you really need it. In the process of getting rid of like 80 to 90% of the things that we own, I have been amazed at how little we actually need and how much we actually use. So we even had this, in our Sticks and Bricks, we had this designated schoolroom and the desks and the bookshelf and all the supplies that you could ever want. And I don't have that here. And it's been amazing that even in the weeks that we've done school, I haven't missed it and I haven't needed it. And so it's just been kind of this refreshing thing. Like, if I get to a point and I need construction paper, guess what? I can go buy construction paper. Now, granted, we did bring a few art supplies. We have some crayons, we have some markers, we have some colored pencils, and I brought one ream of just computer paper. And that has been perfectly fine. I took down and got one of the tiny little staplers, and we have one little ruler, and we have one little thing of scissors, whereas we used to have like 6 rulers and one big stapler and all the 3-hole punch and all the different supplies that, when I had the space, it made sense to have. Why not? Because I have a place to put it. Here I don't have a place to put it, and so we're just making do with what we have, and have just kind of come to the realization that if I need something, I'm just going to go to the store and I'll buy it. And ironically, I haven't come to that point where, oh shoot, we really need, oh wait, I take that back. We had a ruler and Ezra broke it. So I have a ruler on our list to go and replace our ruler. But other than that, I haven't come across anything where, oh, darn it, we didn't bring such and such and I really need that for our school. Instead, I've improvised. I've used something different. If a curriculum has called for something, I've used something else. Or we've just not done it. Sometimes that's okay, guys. You don't have to do everything that the curriculum says to do, especially when your kids already get the subject. Totally different topic for another day. But again, let me just reiterate, you don't have to have everything that everyone else says you need to have in a schoolroom. Wait until you need it. If you need it, then go get it. If it's a book, borrow it from the library. You don't have to personally own all the books. I mean, I would like to, but I don't have the space for it. And maybe you don't either, so I'm giving you permission and saying you don't have to have all the books too. All right, guys, so that's all I've got. Some just basic tips of how to make a small space work for you. Maybe you don't have a designated schoolroom. Maybe you are trying to live tiny in a camper like we are. Those are just some things that I have found over the last month of how you can still have a successful homeschool and not have a huge designated homeschool space. So now what I want to do is kind of take you with me, and I want to just show you how I've made these things work for you, kind of give you a visual of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go do that now. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. I have my ottoman here, and it has multifunctional, right? It actually works as an ottoman. The kids can sit on it. They can play games on it. They can, you know, lay on it actually. But then what I really needed it for was because I was lacking in space. I needed it to be able to open and then be able to store a lot of things on it. We've got a really bad sun glare. Okay. So you can see that each kid in here has their own bin where I keep predominantly things that are just for that particular kid. So they each have their own color, their own notebooks, their own, you know, whatever they would need for that just pertains to them. And they know that they can go to that area, they can get that notebook out for that subject or whatever they're looking for. They know that they have it. And then each kid, you guys have seen me set these up before, that each kid has a binder where this is what I'm using for assessments, and those are already stored in there as well. It has their planner for what we're accomplishing in their week, the day's work that they're going to be using, and then everything is just stored in here. So I've got their textbooks in here for different grades, so you can see I've stored in there the math books and first language lessons and their IEW binders. Like all of those things for all 4 kids are all in here, as well as a couple of just extra things. We have like dictionaries and, or not dictionaries, just one dictionary, but extra just books that we're looking through or using for different subjects that are stored on the side. Really just trying to use like every little bit of space that I have available. But honestly, this is holding all of our major books, textbooks, and notebooks that they're using day in and day out for the homeschool routine. So this is open while we're doing school, and then when we're done, we shut it and it becomes our ottoman. Now I want to show you a couple other things. I was mentioning, you know, just finding little areas to store stuff. I wouldn't say that I particularly am fond of the kids putting all their books, but I do like having books available all throughout a house or camper, as it is for us, that they can easily find a book, pick it up and read it, you know, in some downtime. So the kids have been storing books here. We have some of the books that we're reading aloud as a family that I store over here, as well as a Bible that we have for easy reference. Now I mentioned in here that we have some not great storage, as far as like it just isn't how I would use this, either not wide enough, not deep enough, or that needs more shelves. So up here, as you can see, it's also a little difficult for me to reach. But we have just some extra textbooks, our stash of paper that we keep up here, things that I'm not necessarily needing to get to every day is up there. So, and then on the other side, these are the read aloud books that I have for us to use throughout you know, our stay. So whether or not the kids are reading them or the books that I am choosing to read aloud to them, that is what I have available up here. Again, I'm not needing to get in here often, but it's there and available for me should I need it. So, you know, that's how I kind of keep it. The things that I need to get through daily and frequently are going to be down here where it's easy to get to. The more difficult things can be in a more difficult area, or the things I'm not going to be using frequently can be in more difficult areas to get to that aren't, you know, readily available. So now I want to show you the foldable desk and the chairs that we can easily take in and out based on our need, whether or not we're going to do school inside and here on the floor, or if we're going to do it outside, or if we do need a table available for the kids, then I can easily fold up the leaves of this or fold out the leaves of the table, get the chairs up and available, so it's there and ready for me to use, but I can fold them down when they're not used. So let me go show you that now. So this is what I was referring to, of having just small baskets or tubs or whatever you want to use to hold, just whether it's some manipulatives for your kids to play with during and use for school, or to hold school supplies. We're currently using them to hold picture books that they can read during quiet time or before they go to bed, different times. So this was super simple, just something that can be picked up and moved based on whether or not we need it, and the books can always be changed out as well, so that works. The other thing that is super helpful is this desk. I know I said that we're big fans of IKEA, and this is an IKEA purchase, and so sitting right now, it's only about a foot, at most a foot wide, and I said it has drawers, so each side has drawers that come out, and we are utilizing them to hold mainly just school supplies. So I just have little boxes in here. So this is one with pencils, and then we have ones that have markers and crayons, all the different things that they might need. They know where to go to look for them and to find them. So that's super helpful to hold all this stuff. I love how small and how little space it takes up, but then when we actually need it, it becomes a matter of just pulling up the leaf and sliding out the support. And then, as I mentioned earlier, having super easy chairs. They're really light, they fold up super flat. We actually fit them behind our couches when they're not in use, but then when we need them, we have 4, so 1 for each kid. And as I mentioned, this is only one side of the desk. So imagine if we slid this whole thing out, and if we needed to, we could, and then I would have an entire another leaf on the other side. So there's enough room for one kid, one kid, one kid, one kid, and it really becomes a really great table to use during school, but when not in use, it takes up very little space, which is super helpful in a tiny living area like a camper. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. If you have any questions about how I have used any of our homeschool stuff, how we're living tiny and still managing to operate our homeschool, I would love to answer them for you. So drop those questions, comments below. And until next time, guys, have a blessed day.